Welcome to Flicks and Fresh, your go-to spot for movies, stories, and fresh lifestyle vibes. From movie reviews to wellness tips and feel-good living, we've got you covered. Subscribe and hit that bell. Don't miss a single drop.
Movie, San Andreas. We will discuss the storyline, summarize the plot, and explore the cast and characters. Additionally, we will cover the movie's production details and box office performance. Finally, we will provide reviews and share personal reaction. So, let's get started. San Andreas is a 2015 American disaster film directed by Brad Patton and written by the cartoon cast, with Henry and Jerry Pezim receiving story credit. The film stars Cars Alexander. Principal photography of the film started on April 22, 2014 in Queensland, Australia and wrapped up on July 28 in San Francisco. The film was released worldwide in 2D and 3D on May 29, 2015. Received mixed reviews from critics, praising the visual effects and Johnson's and Gugino's performance, but criticizing the plot and characters. Kalish and Rawness Hayes, when 90.1 magnitude earthquake devastated Ray and Emma attempt to reach San Francisco in Ray's helicopter until it suffers a gearbox failure, forcing them to make an emergency landing at a shopping mall in the Bakersfield. Amid the chaos of looting, Ray steals a Ford F-150 to continue the journey. The pair encounter a couple broken down on the side of the road, shortly before the San Andreas fault, which has reopened and blocked the road Ray and Amy exchange the truck of an airplane the couple owns. As Blackman and the Oli attempt to reach Snob, I do signal the pair after finding their previous meeting point at Gold Tower. Engulfed in the flame, Ray and Emma are forced to into a team park just before 90.6 magnitude. As the quake subsides, having destroyed much of the city, Ray and Emma are both to reach the group, only to realize disaster is approaching San Francisco Bay. They manage to cross the waves before Crostal, barely avoiding a huge cargo ship caught up in the waves. The ship snapped the Golden Gate Bridge center, spun in half, killing everyone on the bridge, including Daniel, and the wave swamped the reunited city, killing thousands more. Blackman and Oli entered the gate, a building whose construction Daniel. The survivors regroup at the relief camp, where they reconciled Ray and Emma talk about their future. On the remains of the Golden Gate Bridge, an American flag unfolds, giving hope that the city will recover and rebuild as rescue vehicles descend on the radically altered landscape of the San Francisco Bay Area, which has a new extent from San Jose to Santa Cruz. The Rock Johnson's Earthquake Actioner was Hollywood's last live action original to earn even $450 million worldwide, despite being just a movie. As we wait word about whether Warner Bros. Will actually release Chris Nolan's Tenet in theaters as scheduled 6 weeks from tonight, and as we continue to speculate as to whether audiences here and
abroad will actually show up. It's worth noting that Ikulo could underperform in relation to its alleged $205 million budget, and still reach a somewhat arbitrary milestone. If it passes even $500 million in worldwide earning, it will be the first wholly original live-action Hollywood movie to since. Well, it is known as Interstellar, which grossed $677 million in 2014. The closest we have had since then. The Venezuela's San Andreas opened 5 years ago last week. It earned $474 million in unadjusted global grosses, including $155 million in North America, becoming the last original live-action Hollywood flick to earn even $450 million worldwide. The film opened not with the over under $45 million projected, at it earned about $55 million in the first 3 days. It would lag out, relatively speaking, to $155 million becoming Warner Bros. Because it was in North America just ahead of Max Fury Road's $152 million Q, and worldwide way ahead of Forrest Barrow's $374 million. Off note, Jaws Malice, modern classic did not play in China, while San Andreas and the Rock Solid, no pun intended, $102 million overdue. It was a big hit because it performed well both in China and North America alongside the rest of the world. Divanis Jones's inferior $125 million Die Hard plus touring, Inferno Homers Skyscraper and $98 million in China, 3 summers later but bombed everywhere, a $68 million domestic, and was a miss at his $8 million global. As I wrote 5 years ago, the Dwayne Johnson starting lookout, Outbreak Actioner like the heartbreak, humanism outer journey, the terrifying symbolism of war, divorce, and poignant, as if it was his Oliver played moral device of 2012. Yet writer Carlton Eakers and director Bate Patton's son, Andreas offered plenty of massively scared outbreak sequences, completed with PG-13 garnets that made Man of Steel look restrained. The film worked as intended even if it became unintentionally comedy as Rose's rescuer, while Kay stole as a focus on rescuing his ex-wife and daughter. John's rescue worker is so laser focused on rescuing his ex-wife Scarla and daughter that he says essentially zero civilian from earthquake-related peril even while operating a rescue chopper and arguably serving in an official capacity. It did not capture the occasional Zatigis, spay to any moment in time or even launched as franchise, and yet it earned almost $500 million. Not only was San Andreas the last live-action Hollywood original to earn even $450 million worldwide, it opened during what was the last time when a big-budget Hollywood original could excel globally despite not being anything terribly special. I read a post early in the year about several promising, not based on anything, releases in 2015, many of which Black Chart would outright bomb. By the next year, it was not too much limited or big budget Hollywood originals, but how many big budget offering where even years never seen this poverty on second before adaptations. By default, video game adaptations like Universal's Warcraft, Sony's animated Angry Birds movie, $352 million, and Fox's Assassin's Creed, $242 million, stood out by being new to cinema, even as only the $72 million budgeted animated video game adaptations qualified as a hit. Audition animated films thrived in 2016 as Zootopia passed $1 million to become the second biggest North-based and anything, grosser behind Avatar alongside Mona's $43 million, Sing $34 million, and The Secret Life of the Past, $75 million. Including Arika for an original, was the $4 million domestic debut, but in ETLM of live-action original, there was just three noteworthy offerings. Johnson Central Intelligence, who's teamed him with Gavin Hart for a surprisingly winning action comedy, earned $122 million domestic and $217 million on the $50 million budget. Stony won $10 million Passengers, an original sci-fi romance thriller starring Jennifer Lawrence and Chris Pratt, was considered a canary in the coal mine, but it okay with $100 million domestic and $340 million worldwide. The Oscar-winning La La and Leak It Out to $151 million domestic and $446 million worldwide on a $50 million budget. Be it causation or a correlation, all considerations San Andreas opened the same summer as China original Monster Hunt, a big-budget family-friendly fantasy adventure with would earn $35 million worldwide. The biggest grossing live-action original in 2016 was not La La, and rather Saffron's Girls environmental fantasy black comedy, The Mermaid, which would earn $553 million with $5 to $6 million coming from China alone, while many of China's biggest homegrown blockbusters were sequel Wolf Warrior 2 and its $870 million came in 2017, or adaptations that to $726 million grossing animated action melodrama Nisaha in 2019. China was also home to wholly original live-action, biggest like The Wandering at $700 million in 2019, or Operation Red Sea, $579 million in 2018, even the fair 2016 Hollywood China co-production The Great Wall, $338 million on a $150 million budget, managed $171 million in China. By 2017, the notion of a Hollywood live-action original earning even $300 million worldwide was an exceptional triumph. In 2017, 2018 and 2019, the biggest domestic grosses among original live-action features very low-budget horror movies, as Get Out $175 million, domestic and $256 million worldwide, on a $5 million budget, A Quiet Place $188 million, $38 million, $17 million, and US $171 million, $255 million, proved exception to the rule. Johnson's all-style merger, Mystery Knives Out, which earned $162 million domestic and $302 million worldwide on a $40 million budget in 2019-2020, depending on where Chris Nolan's based on a true word, bar two story. John Greek $188 million, $526 million, $100 million in 2017. Fears in Knives Out was the biggest grossing, not a horror movie. Original in unadjusted domestic earnings since Instabler, $188 million in 2014. There have been success stories here and there. Eager right to say R rated baby, driver earned $107 million domestic and to $26 million worldwide on a $35 million budget in the ensemble of 2017. Small budget female ensemble comedies like Bad Moms won $83 million on a $20 million budget in 2016, and Girls Trip won $40 million on a $19 million budget in 2017. Scored big profit despite because they defied conventional wisdom about who or what could power a hit movie. And you can't get John Wick Chapter 3 without John Wick if animation counts. Pixar's Inside Out on $856 million in 2015, while Coco on $800 million in 2017. But by 2019, the star-driven comedy was as commercially risky as any other not a superhero movie or nostalgic IP blur. Live-action theatrical offering, and Pixar's onward outright bombed in early 2020. In 2013, the run of the midi-comedy we had Miles Blackout to $150 million domestic and to $70 million worldwide. After many charges that can be levied against Brad Python, San Andreas false advertising is not one of them. The disaster peak promises nothing more than the complete CGI destruction of California, as foregrounded by Dwayne Johnson's jackfruit-sized bicep, and it delivers exactly that. After providing some blissfully stupid B-movie chill for its first hour, the film suffered from spectral overkill. You know what's cooler than an apocalyptic earthquake? Two apocalyptic earthquake and a tourism, and a fatal lack of invention in a second. A more concerned with the toppling building, a one-by-one gen ever drumming up a lack of suspense about the face of those outside them still. San Andreas boasts an undeniable sort of the preverbal lizard vein appeal that should make it as a true earner, especially it territories far removed from the titular fault line. Hewing much closer to Roland Emmerich's teenage symphonies to Shiva than to the more conscious disaster-quick approach of John Antonio. The Impossible San Andreas is the kind of film that can imply the violent death of millions of innocent people without batting an eye, just so long as a 5 or 6 California who better make it out but only cuts embraces. The recent earthquake is Nepal mud hammock. The proposition is about this year, offering a reminder that catastrophic natural disasters are not exactly well fun. The film was forced to retool some of its marketing material as a result, but as thoroughly cheesy and mindless as it is, San Andreas certainly inscribed about the central calamity. And no one is lining up expecting documentary realism anywhere. In any case, the 5 or 6 characters whose life matter are follow. Ray is a hawking, heroic helicopter pilot with segued from flying missions in Afghanistan to performing search and rescue operation in Los Angeles. His son, soon-to-be ex-wife Emma, has shaked up with upper dish building developer Daniel Lone, who is busy constructing the tallest Sadia skyscraper in San Francisco. Despite of information may be useful, Ray and Emma have a college-aged daughter named Black, who jumps a ride up to the Bay Area on Jania's private jet, where she will secure with a fumbling, flustering British 20-something Ben, and his obnoxious, was-wrecking younger brother, Oli Art Packlison. Meanwhile, a Caltech semi-astrologist, prompt to be muttering sans gibberish under his back while drawing lots of diagram, has how to study recent flurry of mini-quake. These draws give him to data he needs to predict future earthquake. Sounding magnetic pulses, mumble, moments before a sudden trembler takes out the whole of them. He's just eye back in the Bastana to put his terrors into practice. Perry entire San Andreas fog lights up with warning sun, indicating the big one is imminent. Well aware that is not the sun. That's bringing bars into the shield. The actress Peyton makes his most first catalysm as he assembled characters dodge debris and lots of screaming dequake, demolishes. On San Francisco simultaneously Python shows us body computer scale, choose well rendered, if invisible from the similar destruction, present in every disaster epic and comic book, film of the past half-decade, as well as some glimpses at more immediate experiences, isolated titles that are more memorable, such as the unaware, airborne, lake glancing down to see our freeway, in the chill silently crumble, or long trekking slot through a luxury rooftop, lungs as Emma pushes past frantic, waitress and a flamingon, staff in search of safety. Shot partially in Australia, the film carves out a stage cameo role, here for SA pop star Kelly, after Holy Motors. San Andreas is many a second considerably film, in which she appears for a single scene, then promptly falls out of a roof. Ray plucks Emma from the top of a crumbling building in his chopper. A well-bent or only pulled black from a crumbling parking lot gauge. To make Black the resourceful, after her little band, she is still invaluable to one getting saved. After ending that Black is temporarily saved, Ray and Emma resort to hand up to San Francisco to rescue her themselves, with the earthquake having passed, as they the films out to stir up sub-novel Pellis to test and develop his character, and the aftermath of an earthquake should provide plenty of dangerous gas, leaks, explosions, fires, rios, slightly worse traffic, etc. And say the film simply doubled down on its initial gambit. Scientists discovered that the biggest, most devastating quake in American history is merely a secure for a bigger, most devastating quake that could turn California into Arizona Bay at any moment. Thanks to this lack of tensions when two major wood cities, light runs, it's hard to get you worked up over the danger or the rubble recollapsing. The film drew off its over last hour. Ray and Emma have a few quiet moments together. They are largely busy dealing with the recommendations of a reader's backstory. Meanwhile, Black and Ben develop a nervous pursuit of romance as they trudge through the street, with Black losing a new article of clouting at every aftershock. Bay Area natives will surely chuckle at some of the geographic oddities as the trio reconciles the map to find their way from Chinatown to Koi Tower, a landmark that ought to be easily visible simply by looking up, maintains a bright Saki presence, and she managed to keep her half of the narrative afloat well enough. E.R. Johnson is the main attraction, best utilized. There is an undercurrent of awkwardness in almost every large-scale disaster movie that is very difficult to shake, and it is especially evident in the San Andreas. The movie very badly wants to tell us the story of the heroism in the face of abject disaster, and to do that in narrative so necessarily focuses on a handful of characters for the audiences related during the calamity. Unfortunately, when coupled with the reality of showing citywide destruction, the massive loss of life that must take place off screen begin to weigh on the popcorn flick that would as San Andreas. Then they want to create this very basic conflict muddies his move somewhat, but just on the scale of a Flaherty Madras summer blockbusters movie. Neither one more right than it is wrong, and most of what it is wrong is almost an artifact of this kind of disaster movie. They were capable of ignoring the massive loss of life occurring beyond the edge of the city and focusing just on the characters that San Andreas wants you to. You will certainly have fine drum. If you are not, you may start to wonder why you care so much about one girl when San Francisco just went 20 feet under Roger Afrala building, fell down and people were still trying to escape. The plot is really bare bonus, but in my opinion actually should have been ever more streamlined. Devan Johnson plays a helicopter rescue pirate named Ray as a series of earthquake along the San Andreas fault delivers massive destruction to California. He obsesses with basically every kind of vehicle to effect the rescue of his ex-wife, Carla, and his daughter, Alexandra, who was in the San Francisco with Helmut's boyfriend, some idiot who does. Meanwhile, our seismologist at Skal, Jack Paul, is working hard with his colleague on a predictive method of distilling of earthquake, so that he can warn of a impending downburst. Jebediah gets a little harmy at him, but I think he just knows that what kind of movie he's in, because he indefinite source of comic relief during some of his line deliveries. By far the worst part of this film involved a shoehorn backstory involving detailed upbringing on Roy's adult daughter. This one character's element founded at Avria, and his was relationship, and is the subject of the conversation between them on the helicopter ride, and truck ride, and plane ride and the boat ride. It also figures prominently in the climax of film. Really must have this started from drawing. Overall, it feels unnecessary and distracting. Like trying to inject a little motivation, meaning into the same characters that already felt well developed. Movies like is always the low-hanging fruit for poor acting, cheesy lines, and physics-defying action on screen. I wish to critique and make fun. So I think it speaks volumes to the pros of this film that is the worst feature is a misguided characterization element. San Andreas was not going to the impasse with the storytelling, theme or as a strong plot, but by performing adequately in those aspects, it was able to knock that which is good do well right out of the park and create an entertaining action piece, not with our own established character. A couple of scenes stand out as big winner. The opening the film involves a helicopter rescue on a cliffside with tension and drama that is rarely equaled again in the film. Whenever main characters are forced to navigate through shaking building, we get some cool, claustrophobic sequences too, and there are some gay characters moments at witty destruction. Although occasionally the movie descends into grey caricatures, the daughter is left trapped in her car by her boss boyfriend, who we then see push a man into filing javelins to save himself, and then see cries later on the ship by container. I get it. He's a jock, so he died. In fact, you can probably gasp the exact final trim-word sentence. You tell by him that closes the film, in a way. It is perfect summation of the spirit of the film. The tables are little corny, and missing the point out of this section, but definitely fun. Back in 2015, I saw a film from a director named Brad Paiton, starring Dwayne Johnson's The Rock called San Andreas. While I enjoyed a lot of San Andreas, something near the end of the film rubbed me the wrong way that affected me. We are the movies as whole and worry if they may have affected my interest in the Paiton's later work as a result. In 2010, I saw one of Paiton's work for the first film, called Cass and Dog. The events of Katie Clare, I don't remember was other than that I was not a huge fan and that I enjoyed the wild aim and the drums shot that played in the beginning, much more than the actual film. In 2012, I saw Paiton's next film, Johnny Joe, where Brendan Fraser's unable to reprise his role from the first film. Devon is Johnson's field in as a lead, and it became their first collaboration. I remembered enjoying it quite but more than I expected. As a result, I was intrigued when it was announced that Paiton and The Rock would with him on a disaster film called San Andreas. I went to a showing of San Andreas expecting nothing more than a typical disaster film, something like Day After Tomorrow or 12. Tiffany's falsely lead named Raymond Gaines with the Gary Gigno plan, his Israel wife, Emma Gaines. I thought the characters were slightly more interesting than usual for a disaster film. Ray Kress to save his daughter was motivated by his guilt over not saving his other daughter. Mallory went on a rafting trip, and she died as a result of an accident. I thought I'd give him a push to rescue his daughter, but will also be a foreshadow of what the film could not pull off the end. Bly, unlike most movie characters trapped in a situation, shows survival skills and would later meet up with a couple of British whether one her age and the other is our own turn to work together to survive. There is the coward boyfriend, Robbie Daniel, and a cameo from Kelly. Also felt unnecessary about those were fully brave, with the characters being easy to root for.
Average outback dweller react to a close encounter of the third kind. That's the questions answered by Occupation, an independent alien invasion thriller from Dawn under about a contingent of down-to-earth citizens to forge a resistance movement after their rural community is decimated by heavily armed. While Occupation is not as likely, polished or filled with the dazzling destruction of examples from Michael's Bay or Ronald Ahmed. Director Luke Spark and his crew make a highly impressive use of their limited budget. Meanwhile, the action is grounded by the interpersonal drama playing out among a talented cast, which includes a couple of faces American audiences might recognize, like once and future Fred Morrison and General Stalwart Bruce Spears, for instance. Somewhere between Independence Day and District 9, Occupation waits to be discovered. Now is the perfect time to catch up with it before the sequel. Occupation Rainfall arrives on our shores this fall. For some reasons, films about pandemic have been climbing the streaming charts this year. For instance, people could not stop watching Stephen is a suffering. Now that's really the sort of mood you are in. You should absolutely check out 93 Days, anchored by a gripping performance from Danny Glover. This 2016 Nigerian drama takes you into the organizing true story of the medical professional who put their lives into the line contain the 2014 Ebola outbreak, where some dramatization of such a subject might take a cold and clinical approach to the crisis and its global state. 93 Days is a striking by intimate film dedicated to Dr. M.O., who succumbed to the virus in the course of her work to stop its spread. This is a story that reminds to honor the extraordinary bravery of ordinary people and memorialize the work of a dedicated few who saved countless lives. That's why Ventros Africa called it one of the most important movies ever made. Firefighters are real-life heroes, and their lives, loves, and sacrifices have made for a reliable source of screen drama through the year. Ron Howard's Backdraft became a pop culture phenomenon in the early 90s. Jones, Travolta, and Joaquin Phoenix explored the band forget by fighting flame in 2014. This 1997 action drama hails from Hong Kong, directed by veteran filmmaker Johnny To and Rive with both compelling characters and thrilling stunt work. The big grief fighting action is largely contained in Lifeline's final stretch, but that only served to make it all the harder. By the time climatic factory blaze break out, Two has thoroughly invested time in the rivals and romances that play out among the hotshot crew of the this year's Van Shan Fire Station. Anyone interested in a blend of soapy but sincere characters drama with slick cinematic action, particularly the trademark brand imported from Hong Kong, legendary film industry, owes it to themselves to check out Lifeline. At 79 September 1985, Mexico City was rocked by an earthquake with a magnitude 8.0. The city was devastated, with thousands of buildings collapsing and over 5,000 lives lost. Like James, Titanic character George Michael, a real-life tragedy as a backdrop for a very human story between two lead characters, which is then illustrated the social divides of a culture. Damien's picture, The Hateful Eight, and Hector Bonnier stars as two men from opposite ends of the social ledger. It may not feature earthquake, hurricanes, or even a capsized luxury liner, but the past decade's most captivating tale of a culture going up in flames had to be that of 2017 Fire Festival debacle. It's a story of unchecked hubris, hollow ambition, and the cheese sandwich shared around the world. You may have seen the tragic Instagram shape of the song Mattresses. The actor Chris Smith previously turned his documentary lens on the twisted rabbit hole of metal acting with the Jim Carrey profile Jim and Andy. The great beyond just as Jim and Andy turned to a seemingly simple surface premises into a mediation.
And a destruction scene, very short and rendered. I inspired most of the movie. So it was it that cast my view of the film to go sharply downhill. Overall during the last act of the film, Blake is trapped in a building, separated from the British brothers on a high floor, which is being filled with the Dodger. By then, Ray and Emma have arrived on a boat, and he goes to rescue her. For some reason, he is initially unable to remove this blockage that stand between him and Blake as the watcher begin to rise. Despite his place, he gives up hope and opts to drown himself to start off with something positive about the scene. That drowning itself there felt real, with her conversing with motion. The life would simply exist out of the body. However, issues begin to surround this. Up at this point, Black is more observant than most characters in this divisible distress position to her scene are for giving up. I don't consider it a sacrifice to save her. There's some to do. Fight out of characters as is rock being unable to move the blockers out. At that point, it tried the movie changing motivation and characters just to sort the plot of the film. Another reason why I hated this scene is because I know that with this scene, combined with the flashback of Melody, this would end in a clear happy ending with the CPR being used importantly once again because there was no way they would both daughters die. Destination disaster movies generally associated with a 1970 and relegated to gas station DVD racks across America. Show Hollywood for something of a loop in 2015 when one Dennis Jones brought him back into the movie going public eye. San Andreas managed to rake in nearly $500 million at a box office, not MCU money, but nothing to sneeze at. That picture brought back another golden oldie from 50 years ago to the idea that the San Andreas fault could be plotting on gazy good people of California, snakily planning to snap the state into the Pacific Ocean, like a densely forbidden gym. Like in so many of these 1970s, there's disaster pieces. The dream forecast is made by our frustrated samsologist, played here by Paul. Jazz ensures as a golden state is hit by up, devastating earthquake, and terrified rescue helicopter pilot Ray Gwens, the fittest man ever to have our job, where you basically sit all day. Ray rescue his estranged wife Emma from the shores in LA. But a couple Black Alexandra is chilling in San Francisco with Emma's boyfriend. A real piece of work played by Lone Crawford, the boyfriend, who should really be trying harder to impress other people since the woman he's dating used to be married to be Block Rock. Eventually, abandons Black, Petty Mus cementing his fate as a second act casually. Ray and Emma set up an high-stakes adventure, flying in the general direction of their kid until the dang old helicopter breaks down, and absurd sequences of events unfold that sees the Jew sealing a truck, then swapping it for an airplane, then into a stadium, then pirating a boat. By the end of the movie, they are a space shuttle and an always locomotive away from failing. Their means of transportation being occurs. Meanwhile, another even bigger earthquake hits California. The resulting takes out the golden girl biz, and more importantly, Emma's obsolete turn of a boyfriend. They never catch up with Black, attempting to find shelter in a building. But a tidal wave is down. Ray profiles and for RD's paternal figured in what he's named for earlier, by not only refusing to abandon his daughter, but also by not getting killed by the ocean. Then Emma rescues the newly reunited family, with a boat. As a result of the natural disaster, most of California is destroyed and the San Francisco. Paris holds North San Francisco Island. Emma and Ray get back together, and the American flag flies. Fambus led for the Golden Gate Biz as a reminder that the United States will preserve all, and also that Emma closet boyfriend, that dear ones, off-screen new land, and also intention to produce a sequel. And while nobody officially titles the project, to an Andrea 2 everyone knows is their heart. Our hard things will probably shake out that way. Arcelin are very used to dealing with horrifying beast, walking shark, and rumors insect 150 foot. But how would a year on Argent film? Five ghostly Andy clickbait, appeal are for rich people, party gonna horribly wrong. Serving as a sobering investigation how dangerous, right in the age of the improver, yes. There's some delicious to be had. But smears commentary does not close over the says, harmed unto those taken in by obnazabilin. How big's to be small business, honor of the unsuspecting cleared, exuma, archiship who are left high and dry, in the wake of disaster. It Warner Bros. Advertising a department would like acquired only new disaster movie. San Andreas Here's Man, the funniest movie of 2015. I have never laughed out loud so much in here. Of course, San Andreas is not meant to be a comedy, but I just could not help myself. As I say in my video review about Fairy Charm, super serious simultaneist Paul Jarrett looked at his setting, assessing the impending destruction of California by saying, "This is not good." I felt he deserved an Oscar for making us believe he was now taking about his script. That's a tip very to the creative. Charles Rutter produces cartoon. Hughes is remarkable in this scene. Their costumes entirely lost in the creating. You are unbelievable human being. Sure, this has CJ generated special effect, but a great disaster movie needs some credible people to make us go. Think of classic in a genre like the Touring Inferno or Poison Adventure. Erwin Allen know how to turn out his stuff up. Even 1974's Outbreak at least had sense around it and says that shook. This one just had me rolling in my seat out of the restlessness. San Andreas, with my destruction now before seen in history, and millions who must be dying. I see the focus on my family who, despite incredibly dire circumstances, seems to have no problem staying alive. That's because Evan Johnson's Akadi Rock is on solid as one. Playing an loud rescue helicopter pilot with talent Superman might envy. There is nothing he can't do. I am not a fan of disaster movies. Never have been. For maybe never will be. I have had some thrills with some of them over the year. But overall, the wanton's destruction of our place in the guise of fun just really appeal to me. I would like to think it's because of my deep, heartfelt respect of humanity. Then it realizes I don't have any of that. It says really just that these films have about as much story as an episodes of Real Housewives. The dialogue is as cheesy as a Wisconsin's parrot, and the thing is as wooden as a Christmas tree farm. Therefore, whenever I sit down for one of those films, I have a hard time watching without wishing a would snook up me and pulling me far away from this nonsense. If you would walk into a film that revolves around an epic earthquake, falling along the shore San Andreas Farland, a movie about broken families, excessive debt, and obscene amount of chaotic carnage, and you walk out with a wide-eyed smile, paying for an earthquake to hit your turn that very minute. You are either set for Fabriensans or just add a fast-pumping rhythm at the movies. This was a letter for me, I hope. This is San Andreas about, oh, right, the story, Ram Darroch Johnson is an LA rescue chopper, pilot who plotted calls to save his estranged wife, Emma, as well as his daughter Black, who has made it track to San Francisco, where the worst of the earthquake will eventually hit. My notice because Captain Expedition story, Blackness informs us with this repeatedly throughout the movie. Is always an engaging actor, but his only role here is to fund the world at large. Of all the scientific moguls jumbo, that is causing skyscrapers to drop into the obvious. But you know that what? You won't hear what is happening, because enough it makes any scene. Does it ever in these types of films? I mean, do you really think 5 tornadoes would be hit? Every locust bill Paxton stumble upon. He is not that extreme. If you can swallow that, then he will be just fine here. Just keep pointing on your fancy map. and tell us where the party is gonna get reunited. The reason all of this work is twofold: fuzzy pacing and effects. That the bread pattern is what it takes to keep a movie like this is on track. Sure, we need a little tech recept, head and germ, and a dishing backstory of Ray and Emma, youngest child's dad, certainly work. But you also need to keep moving. We came to see California destroyed, not to have a hallmark moment for 2 hours. Python presency rare disaster film. That gives you the second reason this work are the performances. This is not the furious sound version of The Rock. I acknowledge much to the dismay. Does The Rock ever punch the earthquake into the submission? Ray's assuredly a heroic type, but he's an everyman hero. A regular guy, well as regular as he can get, with a smile that make it impossible to hate him, and takes his eyes off grandfather boob. Even as they plays his own, a live-action version of Grand Theft Auto, checking every vehicle he can find. He remains a guy whose plight is watch looting. Far Johnson's admirably managed to put his bigger than life persona aside from this film. Juginu gets the mutual role that she has had in some time. And it is refreshing to see such a journeyman actor as he has been finally geared to our billing in a turnpole film like this. Juginu's Emma is not meant to be that of Asner. She is portrayed as a determined widow with a trough marriage, and a character comes shining through in her bag. And for the Joneses, after you pay yourself away from her hypotonic case, proves herself to be more than just an deputy face. After initially appearing to be a typical damsel distress, when to be save her from an impacted car, Black Tail stars and proves she's worthy to be the rock starter, dragging these boys into the manhood as he leads them to the safety. Everyone else in the film basically serve as Tabri's captor, but the 3 Ellies each carry their respective section of the film with flair. Lucas is not going to win any award for acting or writing, nor should it. But San Andreas should be judged exactly for what it is: a fast-paced disaster film with engaging performances and exhilarating set pieces or destruction. Disaster films have seemingly always hinted on how exciting they can make epic level of Jaws feel on Crew Clyde, and this one made me biting the tips of my nails. It all has when this is a how I want to go. Aaron is a urgent murders, equated to form a critic, who founded the Hollywood All-Sider podcast out of a desire to offer an outlet to discuss our myriad of genres, while also serving as a sounding board for those films buffs who can appreciate any form of art without an also winner of the Port Academy, our podcasters and the Podcast Award for his work in the film and television media. Aaron continued to contribute as a film critic and podcast host of the Hollywood Outsider. He also hosts several other successful podcasts we enjoy, including the award-winning Blacklist Asphalt, inspired by a true story, presenting Hit Job, and Beyond Westworld. Enjoy yourself the unique, most importantly, but popcorn. San Andreas proved to be no disaster at the box office over the weekend. According to estimate for US and Canada, debuting with a higher than expected $53.2 million. Fellow newcomers Aloham did not fare as well. The Cameron Skew's romantic comedy fell in line with the modest stacking expectations, debuting at No. 6 with estimated $10 million. Winged into the weekend, San Andreas was tracking to make about $40 million. The Earthquake movie, co-produced by Warner Bros. And Village Roadshow Picture, at a cost of $110 million. Stars Tarok Johnson's as a helicopter pilot who is searching for his daughter during a massive earthquake. Johnson's, who has $8.7 million followers on Twitter, has a large tour for visitors who also flock to see him recently in Furious 7. Positive word of mouth, affected in a strong grade of A- from audience is pulling from San Moscow. Also have San Andreas, an estimated 51% of moviegoers were female, and 70% were older than 25. Whenever you exit observations in this spot, You have to feel good about it. Sad and Feldman, Warner Bros. President of domestic distribution, this movie is going to have some strong legs. Disaster Movies has waving success rates at the box office. The 2004 film, The Day After Tomorrow, starring Zack, opened with a $68.7 million. Adventure pulled in $186 million in the US and Canada. More recently, however, the Tornado Tudor into the storm debuted with $17.3 million. Las Vegas and logged a total domestic haul of a mere $47.6 million. San Andreas Mars Johnson's highest grossing opening as a solo lead. Last week, hundreds of people lined up on Hollywood Boulevard to see the already premiere, where he rolled up in a fire truck. I think this is certainly the term Feldman said. He's larger-than-life for movie star with orchestras. Also, Aloha provided counter-programming to the disaster flick. The rom-com did not run nearly as many views, at least by Sony Picture. The film follows a defense contractor, Bradley Cooper. After he first in love with an Air Force pilot, the high-set film also stars John Bartwin Dunning, MC Brad, and Bill Murray. Despite his star-studded cast, most critics have not been kind. In July, Already said it was unbalanced, unwieldy, and at times nearly unintelligible. The Time review found some charms in close film, and blamed the bumper buzz on effect that Aloha is a messy, imperfect movie that messy, Emperor Ripple. Sony partnered with 20th Century Fox, New Regency, Leicester, Capitol, and Radberg Entertainment for the film, which cost $87 million to make. Basing for a sole opening weekend, Sony put the first 8-minute of the film on YouTube to help market it. Movie just would return out gave Aloha a B- on Cinema Score. It played particularly well among inner female audiences. An estimated 64% of audiences, where female 57% was older than 30. Ultimately, the most important review is that are the movie-going audiences, said Roddy Burrow, showing his hideout domestic distribution, who added that about 4 off mode could have the film in the weeks to come. Universal Pictures Pitch Perfect 2 had the number 2 spot at the domestic box office, adding $14.8 million last weekend. That raises the comedy domestic haul to $147.5 million, and it was for a total to an estimated $226.2 million. The sequel, which stars Anna Kendrick, Rebel Wilson, and Brittany, now as member of our college, our Capilia Group, cost us $29 million to make. Disney Tomorrowland saw ticket sales drop 58% from the previous weekend, but still finished out. The futuristic film added $13.8 million to its total domestic haul. Now about $50.2 million. Magnus Fury Road came in fourth with $13.6 million. The latest George Miller franchise film, maintaining impressive 98% positive, rating from critics on Rotten Tomato, and a B+ grade from audiences member. Boy Bassano scores starring Charlize Theron and Tom Hardy in the title role, made famous by Mel Gibson. The film has made about $15.9 million domestically. Marvel's Avengers Age of Ultron around it all the top 5 with $10.9 million. The film has made $426.5 million domestically since it released May 1. A year to date, the box office is up $3.4 million. However, as a strong debut for San Andreas, wasn't enough to suppress the robust post-memorial their weekend $69.74 million opening of Disney's Nelfisher last year. The overall weekend was down about $19.5 million from the same time that year. The destruction of California proved popular overseas as Johnson. San Andreas launched holiday with $60 million, and 40,500 selling in 60 international market. A Warner Bros. Had a foreign rollout, which represented market with between 50% and 60% of the international box office. It included Play Fast Plays finish in 55 countries, where dominant $53.2 million opening in the US. San Andreas has a worldwide total $113.2 million. Mexico delivered into the top foreign total with $10 million, 3,142nd biggest launch for a Warner Bros. Detail and the biggest opening for a disaster movie in the country. The UK followed with $6.7 million at for 840 locations, followed by Russia with $5.2 million at 256 theater. Brazil generated $3.2 million, followed by France with $3 million, Australia with $2.4 million, and Italy with $1.1 million. Asian market combined for $11 million, with first place launches in Taiwan, Thailand, Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore, and Indonesia. China and Korea will open next week. Village Roadshow picture co-finance and co-produced San Andreas with waterfall $110 million, with most of the film launching in Australia to take advantage of government incentives. San Andreas is directed by Brad Pigeon and produced by Beau Flynn. Titon Kalkius wrote the screenplay from a story by Andrew Fabius and Jerry Passmore. Warner Bros. Also reported that it third weekend of Mad Max Fury Road and taken in $21.6 million at 9 for 742 setting in the 70 markets, lifting the international total to $165 million. Korea led, with $5.2 million dropping only 17%, for a total of $23.6 million. The US followed with $12.4 million for a weekend for $21 million total, followed by France with $2 million for $14 million total. Noted has been set for the release of Fury Road in China. As a wait word about whether Warner Bros. Will actually release series No Dance in theater are scheduled 6 weeks from tonight. And as we continue to speculate to as radio audiences, here and abroad will actually show up, is what noting that it could benefit from in relation to its alleged $205 million budget. And series are somewhat like milestone. If it passes even $500 million is worldwide earning, it will be the first wholly original live-action Hollywood movie to since, well, it is known as Inter-Theater, which grossed $676 million in 2014, double as we have had since then. Johnson's San Andreas opened 5 years ago last week. It earned $474 million in undesired global grosses, including $155 million in North America, becoming the last original live-action Hollywood flick to earn even $450 million worldwide. The film opened not with the over-under $45 million projected, at a time but $55 million in the first 3 years. Every let out, relatively speaking, Joe, $155 million becoming Warner Bros. Biggest grosser in North America, just ahead of Mad Max. Fury Road $152 million costume, and worldwide way ahead of Fury's Road $374 million. Of note, George Miller's modern classic did not play in China, while San Andreas and The Rock Solid, no pun intended, $130 million over there. It was a big hit because it performed well both in China and North America. Alongside it as Hollywood, Johnson's Interferium, $125 million Die Hard plus Jovering, Inferno Homemade Skyscraper, earned $98 million in China. 3 summers later but bombed everywhere, at $68 million. Domestic and was a miss at $330 million global. As I wrote 5 years ago, the Johnson's sharing lookout, earthquake, action or lively are heartbreaking. Heroism of Titanic, the terrifying symbolism of war, Artivars, and the pregnant. 84 versus Olivia Platt. Moral debates are central. Yet what a cartoon cues and actor Brad Pigeon. San Andreas offered plenty of massively scaled earthquake sequences, completely with PG-13 corners that made Man of Steel look restrained, the film worked as intended. Even if it became an unintentional comedy, as Johnson's rescue worker is always a focus on rescuing his ex-wife, Carla, and daughter. That is, he is essentially zero civilian from earthquake-related peril even, while operating a rescue shopper and arguably serving in an official capacity. He did not capture the cultural zeitgeist, straight to any moment in time, or even launch a franchise, and yet it earned almost $500 million. Not only was San Andreas the last live-action Hollywood auditional to earn even $450 million worldwide, it opened during what was the last time when a big-budget Hollywood auditional could excel globally despite not being anything terribly special. I read up was early in the year about several promising, not based on anything released in 2015, many of which black that Tomorrowland etc. would outright bomb. But in next year, it was not so much a matter of big budget Hollywood original but how many big budget offering were even never seen this property on screen before adaptation. By default, video game adaptations like Universal, Crowd, $43 million. Sony's animated Angry Birds movie, $352 million, and Fox's Assassin's Creed, $242 million. So Robert being new to cinema, even as only the $72 million budgeted animated video game adaptations qualified as a hit. Original animated film tried in 2016 as Utopia passed $1 billion to become the second biggest not based on anything grosser behind Avatar. Alongside Mona, $642 million, Sing, $634 million, and A Secret Life of Pets, $875 million. Including a record for an original $104 million domestic debut. But in the realm of live-action original, there was just a noteworthy offering. Johnny Jones's Central Intelligence received him with Kevin Hart for a surprisingly winning action comedy, and $122 million domestic, and $217 million on a $50 million budget. Sony's $110 million Passenger, an additional sci-fi romance thriller starring Jennifer Lawrence and Chris Pratt, was considered a canary in the dropel. Mine did okay, with $100 million domestic and $302 million worldwide. The Oscar-winning La La Land debuted out of $151 million domestic and $456 million worldwide on a $50 million budget. But a correlation or coincidence, San Andreas opened the same summer as Santa's audition Monster Hand. A big-budget family-friendly fantasy adventure, which would earn $385 million worldwide. The biggest crossing live-action original in 2016 was not Land but rather Stefan, environment fantasy black comedy that Manrators would earn $53 million with $426 million coming from Santa alone. There have been success stories here and there. Asia writers R-rated baby driver on $107 million domestic and $226 million worldwide on a $35 million budget. In 2013, the run-of-the-mill comedy Radwayati Miller lacked even $50 million domestic and $270 million worldwide on a $37 million. A Quiet Place $188 million, $38 million, $78 million, and US $177 million, $245 million, $25 million prove exception to this role. The exception that it was Rain Johnson's all-star murder mystery Knives Out, which earned $163 million domestic and $302 million worldwide on a $40 million budget in 2019-2020. Depending on where Chris Nolan's based on a true word, war true story. Dangling $188 million, $526 million, $100 million in 2017. Spearson, Knives Out was the biggest grossing in out horror movie. Additionally, under its domestic earning, since Interior, $188 million, and late 2014, there have been success stories here and there. Edgar Vegas R-rated Baby Driver, and $107 million domestic and $226 million worldwide. $85 million budget in the summer of 2017. Small budget female ensemble comedies like Bad Moms, $183 million, as now $20 million budget in 2016, and Girls Trip, $140 million on $19 million budget in 2017, scored big profit despite because they've defied conventional wisdom about you or what a wood couldn't power a hit movie. And you can get John Wick. Chapter 3 without John Wick, if animation counts, Pixar's Inside Out on $856 million in 2015, while Coco on $80 million in 2017, but by 2019, the start-even comedy was as commercially Is he as any other not a superhero movie? Or nostalgic RB player? Live action theatrical offering? Artwix's onward outright bombed into early 2010. 2013, daren av de milde komedien, hvor jeg admirer legger til $150 million, bemeldingen to $70 million worldwide, at it is $1 million budget. In 2014, Scarlett Johnson's R-rated Lucky Wood, up on $42 million and on $456 million worldwide on a $40 million budget. Partially into the Dirt Audi movie, starred as a brand franchise on two dumpsters, and competition from streaming. Native of those feel any more duplicable than a $474 million global success of the OK educated Star Plus concept. Studio programmer San Andreas even says outside variable. It was understood that case Nolan's big budget sci-fi original that was going to now too extraordinary to be successful. Well, stand out about the success of Johnson's perfectly okay outweighed movie 5 years later is how ordinary it was, both as a commercial success and as a movie. As it was 5 years ago, the Johnson's starring Look Out, outweighs actioner like Jim. Their patron says Andreas offer plenty of massively scaled outweigh sequences completely with PG-13 accounts that made Man of Steel look restrained. The film focus hasn't turned, even if it became an unintentionally comedy, as one surgery worker. It's so, Alexa, not only was San Andreas as laugh direction, visually at least San Andreas beats our outbreak movie. As often as San Francisco has been torn apart on screen, it's now been reduced to a pile of rubble and a few burning hook, and then served over by tidal waves like this. And for local resident is pretty scary. This is a somewhat regionally, but it is not by any means a fantasy. The major tectonic boundaries between the Pacific Plate and the North American Plate called the San Andreas fault runs round to the length of the state, and the big one is long overdue. Director Brad Patton and his crew of CGI specialists show us what could happen. For a Bay Area resident, San Andreas is very disturbing stuff. I want to move on Ohio. A young man sat on his way out of the East Ray Theater. But that is not happening, and one feels helpless. San Andreas has the power to scale, but that does not make it good movie, no matter how impressive the visual. Our writing budgets. San Andreas' humor plot line may be still satisfying on a simple classic level. Ray is macho LA rescue. Five-man hero does himself proud, saving his festive daughter Black Alexandra and reuniting with his ex-wife Emma. Validated Charles and saves a nice young Englishman, Ben, Johnson's part and his adorable little brother, Ollie. But after a movie like Titanic, with all the drama, story and romance, along with Rishi the Deer, and historical specific disaster, we create something more than its silent film. Stuff even Roland ambushes many way. Petty City Global Climate, Change, Disaster. Blockbuster Day After Tomorrow. 2 is plot was not profound or complex. Gives more ideas and stories in play. Dan dark rude schematics out Danny. Johnson's helicopter him and rescuing his family. And Paul Gickmatis says merges his stoning on a public alarm. The trouble with it, outbreaks for a blockbuster disaster movie is that it lasts such a short film. 5 minutes a long one. A good solution would have been to focus on the aftermath. What happened to all the people who are trapped fleeing on their street? Or thousands in its straps cut from service and supplies. We don't get into that. And San Andreas, the solution is that the earthquake go on and on. First, there is one is Navigator, which brings on the whole drum. While kitists, seismologist, Lauren Nesheim and his colleague Dr. Kim are there. The clumbling jam kill, Lauren Nesbelout College. This is an invention suddenly. They discover a fault line they did not know existed. Elijah Lawrence discovers the whole tectonic plate is shifting, causing wave-on-wave of earthquake rated on at 9.6 on the Richard scale. The worst in the recorded history. Lawrence is able to do something. Working with a newswoman, Arsiu Punjabi of CBC, and a young clash hiker. He wants the public on a local news outlet. So he's a hero saving thousands. Paul Dickmatis says the shock will be felt as far away as the East Coast areas, and Doris Johnson's rescue helicopter operator sees the Hollywood sunlights forever. All the appealing action centers upon San Francisco, and now by further by Danny Gordon's Gate Bridge. The lack of other context and the richer plot detail is woeful. Ultimately, the locales, Zamodia systems, about profanity. Bogging Machi merely is a good journeyman, actor doing the routine job. The people who matter are made all this destruction, and that. But where is it at? We don't see it. Count John today, Black Ben Oli, and Emma's new man, Daniel Riddick. Lone prophet, Riddick is the Belga. It seems when disasters strike, there are simple foils, there are heroes, and there are villains stubborn. That's for social balance we see. Some poor soul, ceiling with flat screen TV. Our subtext of the movie is that real estate developers are Belga. That's what Riddick is very wealthy one. Who has just built the tallest building in the San Francisco, in the city views out of the movie. We can still see the charming old city of Russian Hill, Einop Hill, and Telegraph Hill. Surrounded by the Yuppies fortress, Riddick has worked so hard making money that he has lost his feeling and his moral sense. So when he undergone Gajard started to crumble, and like he's stuck in his car, he bullets saying he's going for help but simply running away. In San Francisco, it may seem skyscrapers have been built only to be destroyed in mega earthquake. And with them, it seems those who profited for their construction. I am not sure the movie means too serious, but the implication over. So does he hint that we need a major disaster to show us who the good guys are? Look out, earthquakes mess with Devin Johnson's family, and he will punch you in the nose. Completely divorced from reality, San Andreas is a large-scale, family fast action movie that stars Devin Johnson's and millions. Perhaps billions of pixels and all gathered together in vast 3D. Composition that are magnificently rendered in exquisite art, detailed to expropriate the destruction of the state of California and the thousands, perhaps hundreds of thousands of his inhabitants. Johnson is a rescue worker for the Los Angeles Fire Department, and in the opening scene, we see his brave, daring leadership of his crew as he risks a lamb to save a young woman who is trapped in her car, tangling over a new formed crack in the wood. Soon enough, however, Johnson's will go, stealing helicopter so that he can meet up with his daughter in San Francisco. Now, there is no good reason for him to abandon his duties at this point. His daughter, he says, is unsound and out of immediate harm's way. But Janet Johnson puts his with family first to have with his fellow crew member. With whom he started in military, rescue service, and the evil, with people in Los Angeles who might have been saved by the helicopter, that he's need for his own personal transport. He needs to make sure his daughter okay and unite his family. Steve Johnson and his pretended wife, Carla Jugino, have separated, and she has moved on her way with the architect. Real estate developer Lone Johnson has been received divorce papers. He knows it's his fault because he climbed up after 1 hour after daughter's death, and he's sorry and all that. But he does not know what he can do to make things right. Anyway, Johnson is still right with his daughter Black Alexandra, or Black, as she is often called as the movie unfolds, who is heading off to college in Northern California, but his rescue work has interfered with his plans to drive her there. So, frankly, no plot description is necessary because this screenplay credited to Clark Cartoon gives story credit to Andor and Jeremy Bazemore is very careful to the foreshadow every major plot point at least once. If not twist or trick, it's almost as the filmmakers anticipated that viewers might be tempted to step out or fall asleep between the very low disaster sequences, and Gandhi made the story easy to follow for everyone. The actors are grounded together to make it even easier to follow. Johnson's and Gagino are warm and engaging as a married couple. Onica's for devils, more sad and disappointed than angry, as they take various modes of transportation to see their daughter. Tail stars for Halcyon in Francisco. She's an able and intelligent action heroine who certainly stand out with helpful fairy yet always considerate leadership. Teamed with a plucky young visiting parrot and his witty younger brother, who might be familiar from the first 3 seasons of Game of Thrones. The group is led by Paul Giamatti, who is the brains of the operation as a Sam Morris's own Caltech, an elite private university in Pasadena, near Los Angeles. Giamatti has developed a predictive technology for earthquake risk games in handy. As the movie begins, Archie Punjabi is a television reporter with gear jamming. The movie briskly glides through sequences of mass destruction that should be absolutely devastating, if not entirely paralyzing to witness. Yet insists that what's most important is one's personal attitude. No doom and gloom hero. No sir, as acted by Brad Paiton. The Mysterious Island. Photographed by Steve Yadin and edited by Bob Gruski. San Andreas aims to deliver a positive message in the face of apocalyptic disaster. Credit as well to production designer Barry Case and the hundreds if not thousands are behind the scene personnel. Even as skyscraper crumble and thousands of people perish, the harsh realities are quickly whisked off screen in favor of action movie heroics. Intentionally or not, San Andreas borrows loosely from disaster movies that were prevalent in 1970. Notably Mark Robson's melodramatic Earthquake, 1974. Self-shooting all-star prefix for an all-star cast. The simplicity of the plot keeps Indian background and the resolution of the story and the faith service characters are all foregone conclusion. This allowed man to wander. It's hard not to stay at the shop and aim at the beautiful, artful concealed destruction that is expected on screen. The end of the world has now looked so inviting. The film screen in select theater on Thursday evening, May 28, and then opens wide in theater across North America on Friday, May 29. It opens on Thursday, or Friday in much of the world. In fact, including South America, Europe, Middle East, and parts of Asia. Visit the official site for more information. It is what it is, but good enough, and quite a bit better than its 70 disaster-era progenitors. One certainly cannot deny that San Andreas delivers on a promise inherent in its title. Italy's a featured land road trip to San Andreas Fault, which just happened to be periodically shaking California to pieces along the way. That may not sound like much a plot, but a film vastly improves upon the approach of its obvious disasters-era progenitor, Earthquake 1974, which never educate the uncertainties. After 2 minutes after tremors, what can we do for the rest of the movie except dig people out of the rubble? Propelled by a continuing series of quakes spat out and dusted. San Andreas is all forward, momentum, and non-stop action, but with enough narrative focuses to overletting the calamity totally engulf the picture. Devine C. Johnson's plays a rescue kept a plot going through our divorce from his wife Emma, whose new boyfriend Daniel does not look at like expresses, meaning they cannot possibly be man and out to be replaced him. Passionately for a Joe Silas, Lavidness, Paul, and Kim Park will only have figured out that a human ghost, Greg, is about to deserve California, which will give Ray a chance to prove that Emma should stay with him. This is actually achieved rather quickly, when he visits her off a gallspling rooftop. Adorn John Los Angeles. The plot complications such as it is, and as if from the fact that Ray and Emma's daughter, like, introduce it to the flattering, poly-side, bikini shot, because obviously we can't care what happened to her unless she is hot. Is in San Francisco with Daniel. So they go Ray and Emma on their rescue mission. First in Ray's capture than a stolen vehicle, then a stolen boat. The notion de Ray, a professional rescue worker, is the meaning explored in an emergencies never acknowledged, let alone questions, because movies are all about family these days. At least there's an easy way to generate a little rooting interest. It also goes without saying that he was in the accompanying copter for your personalities and stealing someone else's car is okay, as long you are the protagonist, because here is only movie. Strangely despite his questionable narrative lives, San Andreas never completely matriculates into the dorm movie. School of Filmmaking the scenario managed to maintain at least small illusion of credibility, asking us to engage with the character as if they are people in genuine peril, not merely pawns in the empathy spectrum, is a sign of what's right in the film. That fun, or descendis dies in a collapsing braid. Brace the sequences is played as a tragedy, not an end at cool moment of awesome special effect. Likewise, San Andreas mimics the result a relative job. I know approach to West destruction seen in Godzilla 2014. Much of reaction is gone from the point view of the distraught characters instead of lovingly photographed like epic disaster porn. Although San Andreas is filled with collapsing building, tidal waves, fires and explosion, not all of these scenes are shown dropping get set pieces. Often they add glimpses on the fly as an MRS file. The ability to discharge so status while the film maintains focus on the request to save blood. It's almost as if the filmmakers thought they were making a real movie, in which we care more about the character than the quick. In fact, San Andreas lingers on the words, are being something a little bit better than a body numbers blockbuster. Look out, earthquakes mess with it Dwayne Johnson's family, and he will punch you in the nose. Completely divorced from Billy, San Andreas is a large scale family fast action movie that stars Dennis Johnson and millions, perhaps billions of pixels, all getting together in massive 3D comparison that are magnificently rendered in exquisite detail to extremity the destruction of the state of California and thousands, perhaps hundreds of thousands of his inhabitants. Johnson is a rescue worker at the Los Angeles Fire Department. And in the opening scene, we see in his brave, daring leadership of his crew, as he is get life and limb to save a young woman who is trapped in her car, dangling over a newly formed shipwreck in the world. Soon enough, however, Johnson will go over, stealing a helicopter so that he can meet up with his daughter in San Francisco. Now there is no good reason for him to abandon his duties at this point. His daughter is safe and sound, and out of immediate harm's way. But damn it, Johnson's put his family first to hell with his fellow crew member, with whom he started in military rescue service, and to devil with people in Los Angeles who might have been saved by the helicopter that he sniped for his own personal transport. He needs to make sure his daughter is okay and reunite his family. C. Johnson and his parented wife, Carla, have separated, and she has moved onto a very wealthy architect, real estate developer Lone Gofford. Johnson has ever seen receive divorce paper. You know, it's his fault because he claimed up after one of their daughters dead. And he's sorry that all that, but he does not know what he can do it make things not right. Anyway, Johnson is still tied with his daughter, like Alexandra or Black, as he's often called as the movie unfolds. He's heading off to college in Northern California, but he rescued Oaki's interfered with his plan to drive her there. So, frankly, no blood decision is necessary, because it's a screenplay gratitude to Kai Chon cues. Story credits to Enter Fravisels and Journey Presemble. Is very careful to foreshadow very measured plot, find at least once. If not twist or trail chase, is almost as for different makers anticipated. That reverse might be tempered to disturb out, or flawlessly between the very low disaster sequences. And content made the story easy to follow for everyone. Records are grouped together to make it even easier to follow. Johnson's and Gugino are warm and engaging as a married couple, on the cusp of divorce. More sad and disappointed and angry as they take various modes of transportation to see their daughter. Tadarius takes Charles for her scene in San Francisco. She is an able and intelligent action heroine who certainly stand out with her flary, yet always considerate leadership. Tian with a plucky young visiting braid, Johnson's part and his witty younger writer art, who might be familiar from the first season of Game of Thrones. The entire group is led by Paul, who is the brain of the operation as a semologist and Kardec, an elite private university in Pasadena, near Los Angeles, has developed a plate-active technology for earthquake which comes in handy as the movie begins. Archie Punjabi is a television reporter with their jamming. The movie briskly glides through sequences of mass destruction that could be absolutely devastating, if not entirely paralyzing to witness, yet insists that what's most important is one's personal attitude. No doom and gloom here. No girl, sir, as directed by Brad Pigeon. Johnny Joe. The mysterious island, photographed by Stav Jed Yadlin, and edited by Bob Duxey. San Andreas aims to deliver a positive message in the face of apocalyptic disaster. Credit as well to production designer Barry Kiost and the hundreds of if not thousands are behind the scene personnel. Even as skyscrapers crumbles and thousands of people perish, the harsh realities are quickly whisked off screen in favor of fiction movie heroine. Intentionally or not, San Andreas borrows loosely from the disaster movies that were pretty relevant in 1970, notably Mark Robson's Earthquake 1974, subsetting all-star graphic for an all-star cast. The simplicity of the plot gives it in the background, and his allusion of the story and the fates of his collectors are all Froggen's conclusion. This allowed the mind to wander. It's hard now to say in strong and ever beautiful, artfully convinced destruction that is depicted on screen. The entire world has now looked so inviting. The film screen in select theatre on Thursday evening, May 28, and then opens wide in the theatre across North America on Friday, May 29. It opens and Thursday, or Friday in West World. In fact, including South America, Europe and Middle East, and parts of Asia. Visit the official site for more information. That group is led by Paul, who is the brains of the operation, as a seismologist at Caltech and Elite Private University in Pasadena. Near Los Angeles, Gravity has developed a predictive technology for earthquake, which comes in handy as the movie begins. Archie Punjabi is a television reporter with great charming. The movie basically glides through sequences of mass destruction that should be absolutely devastating, if not entirely paralyzing to witness, yet insists that what's most important is one's personal attitude. No doom and gloom here. No, sir. As acted by Brad Pigeon, Johnny Doom. The mysterious island photographed by Stavi Edlin and edited by Bob Duxey. San Andreas aims to deliver a positive message in the face of apocalyptic disaster. Credit as well to production designer Barry Kiosk, and he and as if not thousands are behind it. Scene personnel. Even as skyscrapers crumble and thousands of people perish, the harsh realities are quickly whisked off screen in favor of fiction movie heroic. Intentionally or not, San Andreas borrows loosely from the disaster movie that were relevant in 1970. Notably Mark Robson's melodramatic Earthquake 1974 subsetting all-star graphic for an all-star cast. The simplicity of the plot gives it in the background, and the resolution of the story and the fatalist character are all foregone conclusion. This allowed the mind to wander. It's hard now to sail in the shore, and have at a beautiful, artful, concealed destruction that is depicted on screen. The end of the world has now looked so inviting. The film screened in Slug Theatre on Thursday evening, May 28, and then opened wide in the theatre across North America on Friday, May 29. It opens on Thursday or Friday in much of the world. In fact, including South America, Europe, the Middle East and parts of Asia. Visit the official site. I really was not looking forward to this movie. The trailer did not excite me, and I thought this movie was just going to be another run of the male disaster movie, and disaster movies don't really to do it for, but this movie shocked me with how good it is. Okay, basic thought. When a huge earthquake at San Francisco, Aragians, a member of the Los Angeles Fire Department, has to the dangers of the trapped city to find his daughter and bring her and his estranged wife to safety. Now I know Jerry Johnson's name gets to our billing on this movie's poster, and he's the reason most people are going to watch this movie. He certainly was the reason I did. But I feel the main star of this movie is Alexandra. She plays Ray's daughter Black and puts in a great performance. The movie is split between Ray and his wife, and are trying to find their daughter in the aftermath of the earthquake. Our Black friend to survive the quake. It sounds very similar to the Day After Tomorrow, but I felt the characters in this movie were much more protective. One of my main problems with disaster movie is I never really feel connected to the characters, and therefore whatever grand, wonderful acts of nature happens around them, I don't really care. Thankfully, this is not a problem in San Andreas. I was so emotionally invested in these characters. I feared for them, celebrated with them, and cried with them. This movie made me a lot more emotional than expected. It was a recourse ride. Every obstacle the characters faced me, I felt in the story. Now, while my emotions investment is largely due to the actors and their superb work, I have tipped my hat to this movie's director, Brad Patton. He does such a great job showcasing the destruction and terror in this movie. His choice of camera angles and scope is inspired. He does use some shaky cam at time, but it really adds to the experience of the film because it makes you feel like you are right there in the center of the action. I love now. Personally, the actor kept the story. An entire city is being destroyed. Buildings are being razed. People are losing their lives. But Python keeps the story focused on our character. They move the plot forward. And because of this focused storytelling, the momental action happening around them means so much more. The only real problem I had with his movie with the CGI is everywhere in this movie, but it's understandable. You can't bring the magnitude and scale of the destruction necessary in this movie to live without a tone of CGI. It could have been better in some places, but it was not a major issue for me. I love when a movie surprises me and is a better watch than I expected. Very few movies have engaged me, excited me, and thrilled me as much as this movie is triumph and does not just deserve the depth and a scale of a cinema. It demonstrates this movie needs to be seen on a big screen, 10:8. I was hyped when I heard they were making a San Andreas movie. I was like, finally a Grand Theft Auto film. What took them so long enough to provide for us what we've been waiting for? Then my excitement was thrown out the window when I found out it was a disaster movie. But it's featuring The Rock, so gave it shot. After back, I'm going to tell you, I enjoyed myself. The acting was real, the CGI was good, and the action was not too over the top. It was not to the point out it being unbelievable. But let's dive into the detail. It is a story you have heard before our thousands and one time. All even that happens once very billions, it is happening today. They scientists who knew well in advance are the inevitable, but decided to tell no one or rather simply to not believe him. But in the middle of all that, there's family who needs to be reunited and survive the event. There is too many writers in Hollywood to now to come up, radiating plot or original ideas concerning these types of movies. And a few successes is the only way to tell this story. I am just asking for one, just one. Many come to this natural disaster. You expect a certain level of mature acting. Whether it be the actors can't emote fear on a day in certain set, or they don't put in the more into the performance because they knowingly are aware they are not going to be win an Academy Award. So they are just standing it in. Despite either reason, this intense was the best acting in a disaster movie I have ever seen. I do not know if me saying that is much, but is it truth? I would refer to one scene, and this is not a spoiler. Narokal musclad and fighted. I became a little saddened, and I stopped eating my popcorn for a split second. I was emotionally invested, and the movie else point for that. Regarding the performance of everyone else, never was okay. Specifically, their performances were a few steps above the level of medical acting therefore to adopt. And action does just enough to give you satisfied it was not over the top, the unelastic situations such as tying oneself to the pole to avoid getting stuck into a tornado, or riding a lamb through building. Crumbling City 2012. Nuttyism of San Andreas not using ever the top down packed action scene is what makes similar films as is wonderful. I should never have to call out a bullshit for my scene. The main duty of the director in a disaster. More into short action within the very diesel believable. For example, a scene would call out is if a guy was to become stricken by a dark Santhium spring into a building but still lives to tell the tale. I am so walking out of the theater, and I am chucking a people with me. Of course, the movie is not without any fallacies. It definitely needs much needed improvement. Primarily, there are too many irrelevant characters. There were 3 too many. The first characters I was still am unaware are the purpose of Azixness. For example, there was a lady to ask the Rock's ex-wife super personal questions, and it was not explained why. I was waiting for this explanation to surface, but it never did. The new boyfriend was reporting to the movies for about 5 minutes. After that, I think they just gave him screen time, because it was in correct contract. I will leave the last I use that character to you. My final choice about this film is that San Andreas was not the best, but it certainly was not and is not the worst. The book qualities stood out, and the qualities that were not as favorable can and will be looked over by audiences. The acting is solid, and CJ is pretty good. Not once did it ever cross my mind that anything looked fake or cheesy. Overall, this is the best disaster movie I have seen in 6 years. Regardless of the story being her, I had fun with the characters, and the action kept me engaged. From beginning to end, I recommend San Andreas as a good date movie. Why? Because your partner can Google ID Rock, and you can appreciate the film's action. Trust me, take my advice, it is either this or pitch perfecto. Believe me, you do not want pitch perfecto. But there's a different topic for another day. San Andreas is a disaster film dealing with yet another earthquake, and also tsunami and follows a family who always seem to get themselves out of a digest or a situation. Strain it was every disaster film ever. This movie had all its leakages that you accept happen in disaster film. You have superhumans breathing underwater for a minute. Last minute rescues are lots and lots of ridiculously close calls. But what made this film more enjoyable than many others disaster film? The Rock Johnson's. Everyone and their models like The Rock. He's one of the biggest names in entertainment industry, and such an incredibly likable guy. You cannot hate this man. So when you put him in a disaster film, it just makes things much more awesome. And besides, if it was in an earthquake, I would much rather do an sponsors coming to my rescue. Our Jones Kioshak. The reason why you go to see disaster film is for the crazy mass destruction of a city. Usually San Francisco, not for the incredibly the plot. So in my opinion, I value entertaining and fun in destruction. More in disaster films are providing us captivating and coherent plot. Let's start with that destruction, shall we? Because it's a lot of it. There are building filling into the other building. Dagon collapsing, ruining balls. This movie had it all. And it was having fun with it. The impossible close cars without budget me. If the film was trying to take itself seriously, but it really was not. They went for visual effect, or practically any appropriate decision. They went to allow the visual effect in this film, and it looked insane, and is one of the best looking disaster movie I have seen. Any large scale action set pictures are just awesome to look at. They are why you watch disaster movies, and they did it pretty not. Next up in this character, you always have a group of characters or a few groups of characters who in some way all know each other and end up running into each other in the middle of a citywide catastrophic. Most of the most time, you only really like one or two of them, and it as you wish would be crushed by something. But in this film, I found myself liking most character, initially for the first 30 minutes. I thought this side plot was going to be gigantic and bore me dread, and I also thought the supporting cast was going to be unbearable to watch. But as the film went on, I found myself connecting with the characters a little more. Johnson's was really convincing at his huge heroic paradigmic, and I really liked Carla Yuri in the film. Their relationship was genic but still interesting, and kinda surprised me. Alexandra Daddario was also good about her, and the other side characters did not do much for me. They weren't really as interesting as The Rock. The biggest issue I had with the film was pacing. The disaster scene were good and somehow family. Boning scene were good body cutting between the two, and then spent on each took enjoyment out of some scene. There would be moments where the uneventful family scenes waited far too long or would constantly be swapping between action and the family to action back to family. It just took me out of a little one. It swapped from fast-paced to slow-paced over and over. In the end, San Andreas is not a great film, but it definitely a very enjoyable disaster movie. The mass destruction and impressive visual effect make it fun, and the characters and the relationship are all right down. But a real star of the show is Rice Johnson's, who elevated enjoyment factor to the power of John. If you are looking for a gripping story and complex characters, will some places, if it's mindless destruction you seek, this is the film for you. Just to clarify before we begin, San Andreas is not the kind of movie one should. Stephen requires such dilemmas realism is Odella, or originally your plot. It cares not at all for scientific accuracy, or logic or narrative agency. And is all more pressing structural concern seems to be the maximum amount of tension in its character. Physical attributes can impose on lidar without their claws giving up the code fight. All these acknowledge a enormously entertaining thanks to the undeniable charisma transit to Rock Johnson's and Evangeline CGI. Destruction of all the West Coast greatest landmark in 3D. Known as Johnson's player Gans, obviously Afghanistan veteran, who spends his days as rescue helicopter pilot for Los Angeles Fire Department. He is soon to be ex-wife. Has one new La Vida, gasoline architect. His outer black, Alexandra, is leading after college, and the new separatist spouses are trying to move on from the dirt of another daughter. Mallory Aliska, Antonin outbreak of unprecedented proportion forces there to go Orville with a helicopter and rescue his family. His spot is just exposed with that of the Lawrence Paul, are several Jesus outrages, who coincidentally happens upon a new measured or preceding. Outbreaks approximately 5 seconds before one comes along that happened to be 50 minutes more intense than my mankind has been experienced. As far as timing goes, is pretty rough. still on his joint forces with a local news reporter to try and find ways to warn the state of California that he God is about to fall out from underneath, presumably under the impression that Vitulate is better than never. If nothing else, it adds him to a lengthy list of scientists in disaster movies who predict that very bad things are about to happen the day after tomorrow. They speak 2012. San Andreas for Ali's lumbering, attempt misunderstanding and explaining something as complex as is nevertheless breathtaking. In his simplicity, Raven told out his ex-wife is currently atop a skyscraper in the middle of an earthquake. Turns the helicopter around and tells that he will be right with you to save her, if not the thousands of other doomed people in the building. One of whom, Bezerly's Australian pop singer Kelly, Black is somehow weightless, sweet-natured, innocent, and yet enormously practical is an emergency. Looting an Actica stole a fire truck, and a number of empty building while trying to get a hide cloned. With a bizarrely confident knowledge that her father will find her, the obvious bad guy, who pretend to be a good guy quite convincingly for his first group saying, turn out to be a real BL after all. And when Rain is a helicopter or a truck, or a plane or a boat, or a two-door behold be finds one. The screenplay by Carlo Nuccios, The Bearsmat, is perhaps the biggest disappointment, only because it seemed like such a clunker coming from an accomplished writer. The film extreme, when it comes to dialogue, is remarkable, even for a damn action flick. Let's forget about daughter. I am gonna get you out. People need to know daddy's shaking is not over. And yes, somehow the haunting is kind of a blast. The movie takes us and decides to approach to the theatrical greatest mass disaster in American history. There are no shots of birds floating in the water, or even so much as a lone kitten standing in a tree. There is no critical complicity, or nice storytelling and very few surprises. Penny finds out Black stranded in the San Francisco Haiti Press earthquake-leveled Los Angeles, of one of his few rescue helicopter. With an every moment's thought, his man on a mission to save his daughter, and while her device or steel gloves, off 100 feet, get given this his way. As Ray Johnson's is intensely committed to his hero's journey, while making the case that he will be as solid and dependable a national treasure as Mount Rushmore. Eugenous and all consistent, if unexceptional, but San Anderson finds more charm in two brothers with plumbing, British accent than Johnson's part. Of a naval architect and a love interest for Black, and Oleg, his younger siblings who providing much needed comic relief, but he primarily chilled out in movie. Into a Betty is watching various terrifying act of nature by themselves on gear 6'5", 260 IB. Levision of a human being undone promptly, a writer in their unverters. The second features are in director Brad Python, gorgeous sequences of live-action when porn. Spoiler it as well done, but in 3D scene the higher whore, dam crumbles into the gorge and guard bridge charter, and don't turn Los Angeles topper to the ground, like a particularly unwieldy. Jingaratoba is eminently satisfying, knowing Daddy Rock is going to do his best to add the ongoing mayhem and destruction. When Rosilla SMU wrenched a car door out to free a girl over dangling from a helicopter in a narrow precipice, after all is just the icing on the cake. All this acknowledged is enormously entertaining. Thanks to the unbelievable shortcuts of Devon's The Rock Johnson's and the wanton CGI destruction of all of the West Coast. Playtest landmark in 3D Nolas Johnson's plays Rick Lyons, a purely Afghanistan veteran, who spends his days as a rescue helicopter pilot for Los Angeles Fire Department. He is soon to be ex-wife. He has found new love with a Castledian architect, Lone. His daughter Black is heading off to college, and a new separated spouses, and trying to move on from the death of another daughter. Mallory Armstrong, until an earthquake of unprecedented proportions faces by Ray to the Oval, with a helicopter and rescue his family. This plot just falls with that of Lawrence Ball, who coincidentally happens upon a new method, a preceding earthquake approximately 5 seconds before one come along that happened to be 50 times more intense than what mankind has new experience.